This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Gotham City, like any other large metropolis, abounds in girls of all shapes and sizes. Debutantes, nurses, stenographers, and librarians.
Gotham City Library, Miss Gordon speaking.
Lopez hair removal. This is Jose.
Holy transformation. 1 minute, plain Barbara Gordon, librarian and Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And the next minute, something new has been added. Batgirl, modeled after her idol, Batman.
Holy apparition! No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Capes Crusaders.
It took me 3 years to track down the Jade Gato, and 3 more to figure out how to steal it.
Funny, it only took me 10 minutes to figure out how to snatch it back. No matter how you do it, crime doesn't pay girls.
Hey, Mihi Nomen S. Stella at Hawk S. Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 208 for June, MMXXI. Happy Pride Month. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, and bronze and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out MileHighComics.com. Well, this guy doesn't normally answer questions, but I will demand answers on this particular episode. And this issue we're going to get to, really the main event, he's been waiting for this issue. So without further ado, let me introduce former beloved, sometimes beloved, mutual boyfriend of Harold and I. It's Donovan Morgan Grant. Welcome back.
Thank you. And I just want to say right off the top, I've never betrayed anyone in my life.
As he shifts his eyes back and forth. It's interesting. Harold likes to compete with you. When you come on, he was sort of doing his homework to be able to top you or just keep in step with you. Do you feel like now that he had come back on for Resident Evil 8 discussion that you now have to one-up him as well? Or is it just friendly competition?
Well, the time has passed for the first part of this, but the only way I could was if we both had completed the next part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake together.
That's true.
So clear, because I guess the only other video game discussion you and I have had has been about Spider-Man. So clearly, I can't imagine. And I said, "Oh, hey, Harry, you should play this." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I might," but like he hasn't yet. So we must do it before he catches up.
He does well with deadlines, but as we saw, he didn't do as well with the deadline I gave him for Village. But he had, in his defense, he did have some outside stressors moving and things like that. So
yes,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I actually wanted to start this episode off talking. So now that everyone's awake, I'll give you context, and it's about the Harley Quinn TV show. Because there's like a double stand. I just want to talk
would you
about
believe
this.
Would you believe that this has been in my brain for like the past 2 weeks?
Okay, well, we can get it out on your brain. And I normally wouldn't even care, I think, except it sounds so ridiculous. And then also if I think about that trash, terrible movie, I guess I shouldn't say that because I've never seen it, The Killing Joke, like there's something weird going on that you're saying it's for one thing, but you don't think about repercussions of sexual acts in other media. But anyways, so there was a recent interview with Variety, and Harley Quinn co-creator and executive producer Justin Halpern revealed where his corporate bosses drew the line, even if he had a pretty good response to try to sway them to his side. So he says, quote, "It's incredibly gratifying and free to be using characters that are considered villains because you just have so much leeway," Halpern told the magazine. Quote, "A perfect example of that is in this third season of Harley, when we had a moment where Batman was going down on Catwoman," he continued. And DC was like, "You can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that." They're like, "Heroes don't do that." So we said, "Are you saying heroes are just selfish lovers?" And they were like, "No, it's that we sell consumer toys for heroes. It's hard to sell a toy if Batman is also going down on someone." End quote. I think I saw this first on IGN, and I think my first comment was like, "So we're saying heroes only do missionary, I guess." But there's so much to pull apart. The toys is, it kind of blows my mind because I'm thinking toys, this is okay. Are you assuming that like 13-year-olds are watching Harley Quinn, which they should not be watching Harley Quinn?
Yeah.
But, adults, they collect toys. Look, there's, I've got my pop figs and everything. So that's like a different animal because people are still going to buy that. The whole, I don't know. It's like you pulled out an act of love that like heroes can't do. It's kind of really weird. I don't know. Is that almost, I think, portrays that sexual act as like devious and really dirty. And so heroes can't do it. And then again, I'll pull up just like the double standard. If I think about The Killing Joke, that Bruce and Babs, there's a bit of an age difference, and like you've got the mentor and mentee relationship. Is he taking advantage of her? So that's almost like, could you not have used that argument as well? Like mentors don't have sex with their mentees. We try to sell toys. We can't do that. Where are your thoughts on this? This just kind of blew my mind. Now, I don't watch Harley Quinn, but just when I was reading that, there's some sort of fallacy there, I think, connecting this like sex with consumer toys, but just also like Batman and Catwoman, they can't be doing that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you a screenshot. I don't know if you can actually make it out, but this is
see text.
This is a study. I literally stayed up one night reading all dozen pages of the study on it's a UK study done in regards to modern day sexual taboos among young people when it regards to oral sex. because I am working on an essay about Batman and masculinity that was definitely kind of, urged on by this topic. It's part of a larger thing. Well, it's actually an evolution of a book review I was going to do. The book titled Batman and the Joker Contested Sexuality Through Queer Theory, because this kind of springs to mind something that's been going on. And I honestly don't want to talk about this too much, but I will. This kind of springs going on like a real invested interest in Batman's sexuality. I would say the last 10 years, like since 2011, I would say it's much more concentrated. So like when it comes to like my reaction is that this is part of a larger issue. But in regards to that specific thing, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, like Harley Quinn's major fandom is young girls. I know this because I see young girls looking for the DC superhero girls Harley Quinn stuff in the kids section at Barnes & Noble. And I understand that the merchandise for that character is huge in that department. So where was Warner Brothers when there's a scene in the Harley Quinn show where she wakes up with Ivy? Like they had they had a drunken one night stand or whatever. They don't really remember what happened. Then Harley like spits a leaf out of her mouth. Like, and as you mentioned, you have Batman and Batgirl hooking up in the Killing Joke, which even to the most like stoic academic was really fraught because it does reek of like a teacher affair. You have him killing with abandon in Batman v Superman and not really paying for it or feeling bad about it. You have all these recent instances of arguable immorality when it comes to the purported like heroism of the character recently. This doesn't really compare. Like, it on the one hand, it kind of gets in this idea that like cunnilingus is a bad thing, and it's no more filthy or naughty or wrong than any other part of sex act because sex is natural and there's nothing really wrong with it. That just comes down to like misogynist taboos. And, they've done a lot of really weird crap on that show in the first place.
Yeah.
It doesn't track as anything particularly vulgar compared to what's come before. And it's a hypocrisy that when that quote came out, it was like DC and Warner Brothers, they are really, really asking for it. Like every time someone's made fun of them, they kind of had it coming. Although like the comments on Batman are kind of frustrating because like I can't imagine Batman. I mean, there's also like other elements to his character that I'm exploring, including the idea that he might be asexual if you listen to the latest episode of Q&A, but also the idea that he wouldn't do that is stupid. So, I mean, like, it's a non-starter, and, if they didn't want to risk that idea, then they should not have done a lot of other things before this, and they also should have greenlit the Harley Quinn show in the first place. But, yeah, it's not a question. It's one with an immediate answer, and it's, you guys are being hypocrites and also really, really sexist as well.
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. I did like how Halpern actually brought like his immediate reaction was, are you saying heroes are just selfish lovers, that they would just be looking for their own gratification and not be looking to please their partners? I didn't like, I was thankful that he brought that up. And they're like, no, it's about the toys. I don't know. I guess so I don't really look at Harley Quinn, that show. I'm like, oh yeah, it's all about the toys. But we know that is a response consistently. That's a large reason why things have fallen off. Like Batman, what was that called? That Batman
Damned.
No. Oh, I was thinking about that. No, that one 3D cartoon that was around the same time as the
Beware the Batman?
Yes. And remember, it didn't. No. Is it Beware the Batman?
Well, that's the only 3D Batman cartoon I know of.
Yeah. With Katana and yeah. And so that canceled, like a lot of things canceled because toy sales were low, or they look at, can we have toy sales for this?
Yeah. So Static, Young Justice. Yeah. Those two.
Yeah. So it's interesting that that's always their knee-jerk reaction is, can we sell toys and how can we sell toys? But again, my thing would be like, why would children be buying toys for this? It's going to be an adult audience. But yeah, you said you didn't want to go on, presumably because you're writing your essay, you don't want to give your thoughts away.
Yeah, I'm writing about my essay. And also like the online conversation about this is just really tiring. It's really more, it really consists of people trying to kind of like outwit themselves in terms of like the fastest one with the hot takes. and not really thinking, because it isn't actually, the instance himself is stupid, but it speaks to a larger, much more, I think, interesting topic. But people aren't going to go there. There were some funny jokes about it, like comparing him to DJ Khaled and stuff. But like, generally speaking, like it's kind of a demon in my brain that I kind of want to get rid of through this essay. Of course, I'm not accusing you of anything, but it's just generally speaking, it's like this is like literally today. And you mentioned the Killing Joke. I was reading an essay about like the Killing Joke as read through a queer lens, and like they reference the animated movie, and they don't have good things to say about it. But just in terms of like how you can read Batman and his history or whatever, there's a lot more intriguing elements. Of course, superheroes and sex, that's not really a new idea. That goes back way farther than I even knew in my research. But that's not really what the conversations had resulted. That's not really what the conversations are about that resulted from this this stupid instance. So just kind of, I guess if anybody's interested in that, stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I am interested in that. I Princess Weeks, she did a quicker video. I think she's prepping for something. A WandaVision. And so in between she had done something. I only had watched a bit of it, but I'm interested to see what her take is on all of this stuff that's happening.
I saw that she did that, and I was like, I'm sure this will be the same like sardonic thing, but like I'll probably will get to that before I put pen to paper.
Well, that's that. I will say, I've read my fair share of fan fiction, so I'm sure I've encountered it. Probably not. I don't tend towards Batman fan fiction necessarily, but what I'm thinking about right now, which I think you have to pay in order to see the full image. But do you remember that you tagged me on, it was either Instagram or Twitter, that Babs Tarr had done that image with Dick and Babs? Do you remember?
Yes. Well, I don't know what they were
pay to see the full image. I'm like,
I don't know what they were doing, but I know that like they're both really sweaty.
It's clear to me what's going on. But anyway, all that to say, I don't even know what to say. It just was so bizarre that we're like having this, discussion that this would happen. But there it is.
The last thing I'll just say is that like this is a Warner Brothers mandate. It's ridiculous to think that Bruce Wayne wouldn't do that. I mean, he's done a lot of he's done weirder stuff than that. I'll just say.
I'm sure he has. And Selena, if I think about Selena, because with Bruce, I could totally see that. I'd be interested what you would have to say.
She would never put up with him if he didn't do that. Quite frankly.
I was going to say, and when I look at Selena, I feel like she's a very sexual being, not sexualized, but just someone who's very comfortable with her sexuality. I feel like she is a bi character. I don't know if that's canon or not, but someone who is comfortable with sex and would do, I don't know, many things. And so she
has a whip.
Yeah, many things would be on the table with her. So it completely makes sense. Yeah. Even if it were her idea and not Bruce's, like this would totally be happening. But anyways, we'll move on. I guess that makes this a PG-13 show. But I just thought, wouldn't it be funny if at the top of the show I bring this up? Okay.
I don't know why I didn't expect it.
I know. Did you know what was happening when I said it?
I really did. It's weird because I spent the entire day reading for this purpose of this essay. So like, I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but yeah.
That's okay. I did want to, at least it hasn't been revealed, but a Batgirl costume is being redesigned by Bruno Redondo and Tom Taylor, we'll say. So that has been publicized by them that something's coming out. And so my initial question, which I think I put in the actual tweet, what are those called? Thread, is for whom is this costume? And of course, some man said Babs. Like, okay, I guess that makes sense as the first answer. But for me, it doesn't make sense that Barbara would be the one getting this costume. Can we just talk about the costume as an idea? We don't have the design yet. We don't know for whom it is. But we've discussed this a bit back and forth. I mean, it is the Batgirl the Oracle podcast, so I thought we could at least bring it up and just the idea of it. Do you have any thoughts about this Batgirl costume, and then who should be getting it, and if Barbara does get it, what does that mean for the character?
Well, honestly, my mind did go to Barbara just because I know that's where DC thinks that Barbara Gordon is Batgirl. At least they have for a long time. Believably, I thought, probably it's owed to Stephanie Brown because Cassandra's in her Batgirl costume. Barbara's Oracle, and Cass or Steph. At best, she has a Batman crest on her chest, but like she's still just a spoiler. But she is addressed as one of the Batgirls, so it ought to be her. I mean, was it even 3 years ago when we got the like blue and gray Batgirl suit with the with the backpack? Like that was not a long time ago.
No, it was not.
So I feel it ought to be Stephanie, and I think that and most importantly, I really feel as though the current people writing the Batman comics right now are not only looking forward, but they're looking forward in a way which brings everybody with them. They're not looking to make Barbara Batgirl again. Most importantly, because they canceled her title. I mean, there's not really a cry for Barbara to be Batgirl again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it might be Babs just because of like how DC has been in the last decade. But of recent note, I don't know if they would make it Barbara, and I'm hoping it's not. And like if it is Barbara, then I don't care. Like what would I care about that for? So like because I like her as Oracle. So like I'm kind of like holding my eyes and pushing the button, thinking it's going to be Stephanie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I don't know if dread is too heavy of a term, but dread that it may be Barbara is just narratively it makes sense, because if it's from Tom Taylor and Redondo, then she's been appearing. She's the only one really that we've seen in the Nightwing book. And so they would need to be doing some work to pull in the other person, whoever would get it, because we've only heard Cass and Steph mentioned, but we haven't seen them. Robin is the only other person we mentioned. So I would just have a problem with, we're giving this to Steph. Well, Steph hasn't been in this book at all. So that would be like a narrative problem. But I want it to be someone else just because we've had, and I even tweeted specifically to Tynion and Taylor, I said, please, can you not regress Barbara for the 5th time since the New 52? Because after every arc, it's like, I'm taking a new step forward. I'm going to change my life. I'm like, can this please be the last time? And she seems pretty resolved where she is. She's trying to figure out if she's Batgirl or Oracle, but she seems pretty settled where she is right now, even if she is in this in between. And I think it would be a regression to bring her back to Batgirl. I think she's kind of in this nebulous space, but she's tending towards more Oracle stuff, I feel like. So I hope it is somebody else. I feel like, yeah, it might be Steph. I mean, I'm going to show some stuff from Joker 4, just Steph and Cass appearing. But yeah, I think they just would need to explain, I think, if it were one of those. But yeah, I don't know. It's the costume weighs so heavy, and it's not just the costume putting on her that feels like a regression, but how does that take her with story wise? And then is she just like this side character in somebody else's book? That feels a bit weird too. Like I feel like Batgirl is one of those characters that deserves her own book. So yeah, mixed feelings, I guess. I don't have a one way or the other. Guess we'll see. It's weird also, even though I didn't like it, it's not like I'm going to defend it, but that Oracle suit that it made, I was going to say it made headlines. It was at least publicized. It came out, it was just that one side. I can't remember what book that was in. I think it was that anthology book, but now it's not been seen again, that green jumpsuit. Do you remember? You don't even remember.
No, yeah.
Oh, it was, I guess better left unsaid that we don't have to see it anymore. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see what it looks like for sure. Okay, so final thing, just before we get to our reviews, or I guess I just want to pop up or show Joker number 4. So this was interesting, and I think this potentially proves what you're saying, that Steph could be the front runner. And I will have to say that, spoiler gear, and then with the bat symbol, but also it gives me lots of Brian Q. Miller Batgirl feels, just with the color scheme and how it looks. But I like this, that she's working with Steph, that Steph is doing some Oracling with Oracle. And then later on, there wasn't much for Cass to do, but that she, actually appears, and that, the three of them are on a team doing different things, but they're all working for a particular goal and purpose. And Oracle / Barbara is certainly the leader of that. And this is like, if I were to just pull this page or this scene, I guess this chapter, whatever chapter it is, this is what I envision the Batgirl's book and what it could be really, is that Barbara's there and she's the handler. And then we've got field agents and she's training them to be like her, but also to learn from her and become their own entities as well. Did you enjoy these scenes, or this scene, I guess, from The Joker, number 4?
Oh, sure. I mean, like it's these characters I love. Is Gilliam March. He's not drawing Catwoman's feet. It's a good time. And as recently as this week's issue of Detective Comics, Cass and Steph are still running around going, "Hey, Oracle, it's the Batgirls." So this is an idea that's like done that's really being seeded into the readers' minds. If they were to kind of turn around like, "Hey, everybody, new Batgirl costume for Barbara Gordon." I don't know. I mean, the way that social media is now with the current creators, how involved they are with like kind of fan response. This is not Dan DiDio and Jeff Johns anymore. I feel as though they are not stupid enough to do what they've been doing the last year and then just pretend that like Batgirl's abortive last volume didn't happen and just give her, and you make a good point about like, if she were to remain a supporting character but be Batgirl again, that'd just be odd because she's prominent in several books, and also it's like they're almost her supporting characters, practically so. So yeah, I think that they're kind of like testing the waters for a Batgirl book. I think I'm not predicting this because I'm really not positive, but what might happen is that they give Steph a Batgirl suit and then they give them some backups and then maybe launch a miniseries or a series on it.
Yeah, here's hoping. And they'll probably try it out and do that whole thing where they just give it, 6 to 12 issues and see how it's selling, and then either proceed or drop it by the wayside. But yeah, I mean, I trust, like, maybe I'm foolish to put my trust in Tynion, but I feel like he wouldn't.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing. And I think he has power potentially to tout and make some stuff happen, which I hope he does.
We have Tynion on Batman. We have Tamaki on Detective Comics. We've got Taylor on Nightwing. Chip Zdarsky is doing a lot of Bat Family stuff and Batman Urban Legends with his leading Jason Todd story. That's Bruce, Jason, and Barbara. It's solid. There's some various backups that highlight the Bat Family. So I feel that there's much more attention on the Bat Family. It's not just the Bruce Wayne Trauma Show or the Bruce Wayne Catwoman Romance Hour by Tom, which was all of Tom King's run. So we've been so burned on this for a while that we have our defenses up. But just looking at how things have been, I can't imagine it being like just a Barbara Gordon is Batgirl dance again. I think it's going to be something much more in lines of what people are kind of wanting to see. Because I don't know. And again, like Tom Taylor, he's done other Bat Family stuff with like Deceased. He's been very much about the family in Nightwing. So yeah, no, I'm not negative about this. I'm interested just because if this is Batgirl thing, I would be pissed. But or Barbara Gordon thing. But I feel that it's going to be something that we would not dislike.
Yeah, here's hoping. Fingers crossed, fingers and toes. Okay, well, the last segment before we get into the main event is, of course, Find Your Joy, which is Shag's Mac and Cheese of Comfort and Joy. Donovan, do you have anything that's been bringing you some funsies?
A couple of things. I have recently finished season 1 of Gravity Falls.
Finally!
Yes.
Get it?
Yes, I have. Today I watched the one where they're at the mini golf thing, which was funny, and it's good. I think I like that this second season is getting just a little bit more serious, which is kind of what I was anticipating, just kind of like from like general word of mouth of the show. But like it's still funny as ever. It's a case of like every day thinking, oh, okay, this would be a good time. I'm having lunch or whatever. This would be a good time to get an episode in. I look forward to watching it. In addition to that, I watched Star Trek's 5 and 6 of the original movies, and for very different reasons, I enjoyed 5 on an almost ironic level, and I enjoyed 6 on a genuine quality level, and I thought those were really good.
Is 5 the one with the whales?
That's 4. 5 is the one where Shatner's like, "What is God need with a starship?"
I watched them all once upon a time. So it's hard. They all meld together. Have you seen the scene where Grungle Stan is pug trafficking?
No, I don't know what that's about.
Okay. Okay. Have you seen the news story where they went through all of Grunkle Stan's criminal charges? They're like, no, we're going to dedicate this segment. Has that happened?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
You'll find. Sometimes Donovan sends me out of context videos, which are funny. Like Seuss pretending to be a pig or something. And then that man came out and he's like, I'd eat you.
I'll still eat you.
Oh boy. Well, let's see. I'm still trying to make it. It's gotten much better. I will say my job, but boy, was that overwhelming. On this past weekend, I went to Busch Gardens. So that was super exciting. I went with little Ellie Sawyer. She's not little anymore. She has now graduated from the University of Virginia and will be a nurse starting in August at the UVA hospital system. And then also in early June, I went to see a professional women's soccer game. My favorite team is Orlando Pride, and they were playing the Washington Spirit at home. So I drove up to DC and saw that. So that was a lot of fun. And there was a tie, 1-1. But the Pride has had some rough seasons in the past. They're usually last, and they are top, knock on wood, they are top. They haven't lost yet. So they've just had those, the ties. So I've been enjoying that. So I think that's it. Yes. Oh, and I bought some Broadway tickets to see Six, which is a musical about Henry VIII's 6 wives, which sounds crazy, but I'm looking forward to it. And then one of my former students, she is going up to grad school at Columbia. And so we're going to go and see that together. So I'm excited. So that'll be in October.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It's nice to have connections like that. Okay. So here it is, folks. The main event. Donovan even wore a shirt that says, I believe in Cassandra Cain.
I sure did.
Before, of course, but it's really important that he wears that today. I tweeted out that this is the final round, Cass v. Shiva, and Lady Shiva. What's that Twitter handle?
Let's talk Lady Shiva.
That's what it is. She or they or he put down money on Shiva. And I said, I'll take that bet. So we'll see what happens. Who wins? Does somebody win? Can we, even before you do your synopsis, what is your history with this particular issue? I mean, is this your favorite issue in the whole run, would you say? Is that a hard question? Sorry to put you on the spot, but what's your history with it? At least we could say that.
I think it's just once you reach a finale, you just remember like, oh, this has all been building to this. Cause it's not, I mean, like once I started reading this Batgirl volume and getting to this, and this is the main storyline so far. So it's just that, it's just a big culmination. And I think I feel that like, it's definitely where the series has been leading up to, where the character has been leading up to. This is still a very new character back when this was first written, Cassandra Cain. My favorite issue is probably, I don't know if I have a single favorite one, but like, it's like a combination of like, 7, 8, 13, 23, and this. So I guess this is part of the table of the 5 favorite issues. I remember I had some class in college that was about visual imagery or whatever, and I remember bringing my copy of Batgirl 25 and showing them this cover. I wish Caroline Cook were here to talk about this cover.
Because of the tatas?
Well, yeah, it's a great, awesome battle damage cover, but it's like it's almost like Master of the Martial Arts, that terrible anime where they punch each other off and their clothes blow apart.
Well, yeah, my chief Tata correspondent would have something to say about that. Also, I guess I get confused with Cassandra's, and I talk about boobs and tatas a lot on the show, but her chest size I feel like is pretty large in that cover, and I always feel like not necessarily that she's flat chested, but I don't know.
Yeah, she shouldn't be like this.
I wouldn't think so, but that's just me. Okay, what's your history with this? Did you say?
My history is only that, just kind of like once I reached the issue, it's all been leading to this. I very much enjoy it, and okay. a lot of the stories afterwards kind of have to measure up to this overall storyline.
Oh man. Yeah, I told everyone how you were betraying this podcast because you didn't want to be on it anymore.
That's not exactly true.
You're like,
didn't wanna
after
be on
25, I'm not going to be on to cover Cassandra. I'm like, wow, okay, we've been
That's
hanging.
not so.
You've got
Oh,
some
boy.
explaining to do. Okay, so Donovan, do you want to lead us through a synopsis of Batgirl number 25?
Yes, and I certainly would do. Batgirl 25 by Kelly Puckett, Damian Scott, Robert Campanella.
She's got 3 boobs, I just want to say. What's this crease
No.
down the middle of the left one? What is that?
That's her bicep.
No, it isn't. What? No, it is not, you fool. No, it is not. You see the left ta-ta. There's a crease down the center of that ta-ta.
A crease down the center
of the left ta-ta. Do you see this line? I can't point. I don't have a cursor.
I think what we're looking at is just where the light source is hitting her skin.
Whatever. She's got 3. She's got a regular sized one and then 2 minis. Okay, keep going.
Is this really where we're docking points because she has 3 boobs and not 2?
No, you brought it up.
No.
Oh my!
I love this comic, but she has 3 boobs. No, she doesn't.
You should not have brought up Carolyn Coca. If you hadn't,
always.
I wouldn't have. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, she's a hero on this show. But
I am proud to say I do not stare at Cassandra Cain's boobs, and now I've stared at her boobs now more than ever. You brought me this low.
I'm so sorry, but look. Okay, let's do this thing.
I can't, actually. Okay. All right. So this comic book, which includes people with boobs, begins at a kind of gathering of martial artists. There's one martial artist who's just defeating several people at once until he is greeted by Lady Shiva, as you can read a banner at the top of the building saying, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," which is the mythological description of Shiva. So we cut to Batgirl's Batcave, and we see Cassandra leaving a recorded message on her Bat computer. It says, "Oracle, I want to thank you for everything. You were like a mother." And then she pushes away and tries not to cry. So she erases that because there was too much feelings in it. Records one for Batman, wherever he is. Hey, Batman, if you don't end up in prison, I want to say thank you. Don't blame Shiva. This is my idea. I'm sorry. And I will talk a lot about that once we're into the review. The next scene has Cassandra out on top of a rooftop, quite a rooftop, kind of like, I guess it looks similar to some sort of like hotel or subway gathering. She's looking at the city, looking at Gotham City, the place where she's lived at the past year. A man walks towards her, and she can tell right away that he's intending on jumping over. And so she quickly tells him, "Don't jump, not worth it." He's frightened because he doesn't know how she could perceive that he was intending suicide, but she saves his life as she contemplates ending her own. And then Cass gets a message on her radio saying, "Batgirl, I need you." And there's only one person who talks to her like that. It's Oracle. So Cass goes to the clock tower and meets Oracle. Oracle says, "I need you to see something in the hollow room." And sacre bleu, Oracle has cruelly reconstructed her origin story, where it's a reconstruction of the video that we saw in about issue 3, mailed to Batman and Alfred, where 8-year-old Cassandra committed her first hit. And Oracle's like, "Yeah, that's you, isn't it?" And right before the recreation has Cassandra kill the guy, Cass yells, "Stop!" And Barbara's like, "I'm sorry, I had to do that because I understand why you're doing this. I can't let you throw your life away. This death fight against Shiva is not worth it. You were just a kid. You were 8 years old. This is nothing to do with karma. This is nothing to do with justice. I want you to realize that it's not your fault, but for right now, I'm stopping this fight." And so Cass very contritely turns around and says, I'm sorry." And Oracle's like, "Oh, there's nothing to be sorry for." And Cass hits her at a pressure point, and Oracle freezes. I won't say paralyzed, but she's like frozen stiff. And Cass says, "If this wears off, I'm sorry, but I have to do this." As she kind of mysteriously removes her glasses. And as Oracle is left frozen in the room, staring at the young Cassandra Cain, who the grown Cassandra Cain still sees herself as. So we cut to a mysterious and undisclosed location where Shiva is waiting, very windy. Shiva closes her eyes and says to no one, seemingly, ready? Then out of nowhere, Cassandra shows up and she says that she's ready. And the fight is on. So we get big splash pages of martial arts action between Lady Shiva and Batgirl. Batgirl, by the way, is out in her like issue 7 civvy. She's out in just like a black turtleneck and black jeans. Cassandra is throwing all these blows and Shiva is evading them. Cass can't get a hit on her. Although she comes close and destroys a lot of like stone, parts of the wall. And as she does it, Shiva says, nice. Cass goes in for a blow and Shiva murders her. She strikes her square in the chest, center mass. Cass recoils back and is just kind of like choking as Shiva slowly walks over towards her, shushes her, and Cassandra passes away over the next 5 panels. Until 2 pages later, where we see Shiva basically do a martial arts superhero punch into her chest, into Batgirl, who is now alive and in her Batgirl costume. I know you love that.
Where did it come from?
Yeah, good question. Cass awakens. Shiva offers her a replenishing tea and says, you might need some considering you just died. So what was death like? Why did you want to die? And Cassandra, there's no reason why Cassandra needs to be coy anymore. She says, I killed a guy. And she was like, honey, just one? And soon realizes that because of Cassandra's training and her gift for body language, she understands that when Cassandra killed that guy, she saw and felt everything that he felt. Terror and then nothing. And so Shiva understands Cassandra finally. Okay, you're doing this because of karma. I get it. But you died and now you're alive. So how do you feel? And Cassandra says she just feels different. And as they walk around their surroundings, it's the building, it's the area that we saw in the very beginning of the issue. And we see a bunch of photographs of various dead guys. These are victims of Shiva. They were taken by the guy who she killed to basically take over this place, who's kind of smelling the room up in another corner. Batgirl runs over and says, bring him back. And she was like, it took a year of work to do what I did to you. I couldn't do it for him if I wanted to. Or you. As she takes out a sword. Batgirl says, you have to stop. And she was like, I am Shiva. I can't be stopped. But would you like to try? And so Cass like, I see. This is what you were planning all along, to knock me out of my senses and get a real fight. It worked. Batgirl tosses off the sword, destroys Shiva's sword, and they're having a much more equally matched fight across multiple pages. Shiva's still beating her up, but Cass is getting some hits in as well, kneeing her in the stomach, a right cross, blocking her moves. And as they're fighting, Cassandra is, like, Shiva's words are kind of going over Cassandra's head, asking about death, asking why she wanted to die, and understanding, wait, you want to die as well. So Shiva pauses at this. Cass gets a hit in, and Cass says, I see you, Shiva, searching the world for your death. And she knocks Shiva out. Keep searching. And then her own weight gives way, and Cass collapses, completely exhausted and battered as well. And as they lay right next to each other, Shiva swears, I'll kill you. And the issue ends with Cass saying, not tonight.
The end. I will say that this last page, I very much enjoy this last page. And
oh yeah, it's iconic.
It's intimate. It's intimate. And I don't want anyone to read into that what I'm saying, but just the positions and how close they are. It's really interesting to think about that, which one of my questions, of course, will be their familial relationship and how that could change readings and everything of this comic. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
for allowing you to do that.
Yes.
Okay. So I do have many questions. Oh, here we go. Okay. So now I can point out the third boob. I wish I could have my cursor, but it goes away once I hover over it. But hopefully people can see this little crease down the left one.
That is her bicep.
No, it is not.
You're looking at her arm.
Oh, you know what? The one on the left is in fact what I was looking at as the bicep.
That's right. Of course it's her bicep.
But It's like one of those things, you see a vase or a woman? But yeah, you need to people look at it. It looks like she's got a... Anyways, well, that questions have been
Believe
answered.
me,
Can
I would
you
never
believe
miss
it?
that. Questions we don't have answers. Oh, come on.
We've answered a question, so thank you, Quinoa. Okay, now Donovan, this segment of the show is called Donovan Explain Yourself. So
This segment of the show is called Stella's like, explain this, and I'm like, what needs to be explained?
Well, here we are. This is why I have you on the show. Okay, so I just have a lot of questions. Is that okay?
I knew you would. I mean, we've been doing this Batgirl run for so long now that I see you, Stella. I see what you're after.
I'm so glad. Okay, I want to talk about this flashback briefly. So I personally, thank you so much for your synopsis. I do appreciate it. I personally have trouble with some of these flashbacks in this book. Not just this issue, but in the past, it's hard to get a sense of when something's happening or what is going on. And this becomes clear, this flashback, what is actually happening once we get to the end and we see where Shiva is, that setting, and she explains basically what went on here. So a question, I guess, this one specifically, but flashbacks in general, do you feel like a flashback fails, or is it weak if it takes the whole issue for you to understand what is going on in it? Like, should this be clearer, maybe what's happening?
First of all, I've always understood your lack of clarity with this book. I honestly have, like no joke. Like the way that Puckett scripts these things is they're often vague. So I never think that, like, you're like, oh, I'm not sure what this scene or this panel's mean. I'm always like, yeah, I understand. In regards to the utilization of flashbacks, I don't think you need to know right away as you're watching the flashback, oh, I know what this is about. And in fact, I think the purpose of it is to kind of be a little coy and give more meaning after some information. Now, I think that, like, with this, it can be argued, is this even needed? Like, could she have explained what the place that they're staying at is afterwards, and we could have just bought it? We could have. It could have been like Puckett just not knowing how to kind of complete the issue. I keep on. I think this is an exercise issue. No, it is. Yeah, they actually say it on the cover. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it could be healthily argued that this is just kind of like confusing and not really clarifying, because you didn't need to explain the ending, and having it at the beginning is like, wait, what is going on? I'm not confused, but that's because I've read this issue so many times before. So I accept your confusion. Because
I actually thought that Shiva was already in the fight. If you look at this flying person, I was like, is that Shiva right there? But then I actually realized that Shiva's the shadow in the doorway that's getting closer to him and everything. And then it becomes, you don't know why he's, super excited to see her and probably bowing to her, ready to kiss her hand. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll move on. So that's just something that, I do struggle with that with this particular book, and I try to work through it. And sometimes it becomes clear once I get to the end of an issue, and sometimes it doesn't. Okay. But now this is, of course, the Barbara Gordon podcast. I'm going to talk about her a couple times in this one. So this was really interesting for me, that it seems like it's more difficult for Cassandra to record a message to Babs than Batman. And I mean, especially because she deletes the message that she had for Barbara. So I guess my question is why? Why do you think it seems more difficult? Is that maybe I'm incorrect in that reading, but why do you think it's more difficult for Cassandra to record a message to Barbara than Batman, who it seems like she just kind of, spits it out? Of course, he's bat jerk murderer right now. But yeah, thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's on a lamb. He's like hitching train rides with a bindle stiff. I think it's a much more familial mentor. Or, I'm sorry, familial? No, that's not the right word. Familiar mentor, especially because he was trained by Kane himself. And so whether either he intends it or not, I think there's similarities to Kane that Cassandra can kind of look up to, while knowing that he's a more heroic person than Kane is. But Barbara, she's trying to take her out for pizza, try to see a movie. They're trying on lipstick and stuff. Like, these are things that Cassandra has not experienced. And whether she likes that stuff or not, she's always appreciated the experience. She's always appreciated how, or like, she's never like said, I don't like what Oracle does, or I don't like how Oracle, interacts with that. She's never like disliked that. We've not seen a scene where she's like, Oracle's on my last nerve. So I understand that Oracle tried to help her in a way which was totally new to her, and says I'm sure that like Cassandra, who's never had a mother, and I'm gonna let that hang, approximates. I imagine this is what motherhood is like, and I'm imagining it means as much as I feel towards Barbara, and because she can't get that out without crying, she's like, this is no good. I don't want to cry. She's not really been told that like crying is a healthy thing to do, so she erases it. But no, it is a unlike the beginning. This has total meaning for me.
Do you think it could also be her? On top of that, I totally accept that, but also maybe thinking about the reaction of the other party, that it would be really hard emotionally for Barbara compared to Bruce. Bruce might just be, angry. It seems like she's prepared for that anger, but Barbara might be really hurt. So do you think she's also thinking like, oh, this could be really hard for Barbara, whereas Bruce, it'll be hard for him, but in a different way, and he'll also probably get over it or just have his issues with it.
Well, I'm not sure that she thinks all that much about how hard it'll be for them because she's still going through it. I'm remembering in issue 7, or maybe 6, I think it was issue 7, when Cass didn't have her fighting skills, and she's like, "Listen, people are dying. Why am I more valuable than?" And he tells her about what happened to Jason Todd. He's like, "That's not going to happen again." So she knows by him telling her how he might react if she were to die. And of course, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to know that like Barbara would be horror stricken if anything happened to Cass. But I think with Batman, that's probably closer in her memories. It's like, oh, I know you're gonna be mad at Shiva, but it was my idea. Whereas with Oracle, she thinks about the good times rather than Batman saying, no one's gonna die under my watch again, and then having it in her head that she's about to die.
Mm-hmm.
And also, can I talk about that for a bit? I like how it's like, I don't know, the way that Cassandra sees like the Batman symbol, what Batman means as a hero and all that kind of stuff. There's that panel of Don't Blame Shiva, it's my idea. We know that Cassandra has an awful view of herself. Mm-hmm. And so there's that shot where it was my idea. She looks down, she's bowing her head, but it looks as though she's almost, the way that it's illustrated, it's like she's looking at the bat symbol, right? Mm-hmm. And then she looks towards the reader, I'm sorry. Like looks towards Batman, I'm sorry. It's like the idea is that not so much I'm sorry I died or I'm sorry that you weren't there, but like I feel like I failed what you represent. And I think that's a lot more, that's terrific visual storytelling that's all towards Damian Scott and not just Kelly Bucket.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. So then we get to this. And I will say, it looks like that man's toupee is flying off.
I noticed that this time, for the first time.
Not sure what's going on there. But there's a certain group of people that you don't care for. And I am in that group. And they're hypocrites. It frankly annoys you and you don't like them. So is Cass a hypocrite for preventing that man from jumping off this skyscraper? But of course, she knows all along what she's about to do, basically the same thing. I have to have ridiculous questions along with the serious ones.
Oh, no. I mean, she is a hypocrite.
Okay. Does that annoy you, frankly?
No, I love her.
Okay. Now you're a hypocrite.
Well, you're not Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain isn't you. So,
my gosh.
Like, I think Cassandra Cain is under the belief that like she's the lowest of the low out there. And it doesn't matter. Like it's not worth no matter what anybody else has done. And we've seen this in issues leading up to it. It doesn't matter what anybody else has done, but like, she just thinks that she's different. So it's not like she is being a hypocrite, but it's not a contradiction of the writing.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's interesting. She says it's not worth it. Is death not worth it?
Well, it's like, she believes that people can kind of come up and redeem themselves. Yeah. But because they have not been trained to be a killer since they were 8 years old. Right. Yeah. Like whatever's going on. Also, and again, like the silent page where we first see her looking out at the city. Yeah. We see her face, then see the guy walking up. And the very, very last panel at the bottom of that first page, it's just, you don't even see the guy in that panel. You just see her eye. I just love that. I think that's That's wonderful
She knows
storytelling.
Exactly what he's about to do.
Yeah, it's right on the edge of the right frame of the panel. It's like that's part of why I love this book. It's just very like it's all about the senses more than anything else. It's not just there's in the Batgirl miniseries years later on when like Batman and Robin are explaining what happened to her. It's literally like pages and pages and pages of like word balloons and text, and it's horrible storytelling. This one's much more like not only better but like thoughtful in terms of how to communicate that stuff.
Do you feel like she holds herself to a standard that's different than the other Bat family members hold themselves to? A human standard, I guess, like what it means.
I think that she doesn't think that she doesn't think that she's as good as them as people. There was that dream sequence where she was like taking cookies out of the cookie jar, and then like the Bat family were like nightmarishly castigating her. Oh, you're not one of us. Like, I think that like she's just like you guys are great, and I have this original sin that I can't wash out from me. So I don't know if it's a different. I think the standard is that like whatever is different the standard may be seen as in her eyes, it's not so different enough that they can't be seen as a better example of her.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it also has to do with just her upraising. Is that a word?
I mean, I think it's because Kane certainly didn't tell her to feel any guilt or whatever. I think it's a case of like how she felt. And I think a lot of her guilt is compounded by the example of the Bat family, like in No Man's Land, how bad No Man's Land got. And she meets these groups of individuals, and they're like, "Yeah, we are trained in the martial arts. We are superior in a lot of ways, but we're never going to kill anybody." I think a lot of her lack of self-worth actually manifested through meeting the Bat family. And so, as she's Batgirl, she's given this costume. She understands that Oracle was Batgirl. She understands this legacy, and and then there was all these people that she could not save. There's just this sort of like burrowing depth of self-hatred as she's Batgirl. That she kind of reaches over this last year. She's like, I can't continue on like this because I'm not worth it. I mean, there is obviously a ton of like suicidal ideation. Suicide is a big part of this issue, and it's not. I don't think it's done recklessly or frivolously. And if this story were to be done again, they would probably do it more. They'll kind of end with like, if you need help, call this number kind of thing. Yeah. But this is also kind of like a heightened reality where she's like a supreme martial artist, and so it's a little difficult to relate to her reasons. But at the same time, I guarantee there's a lot of readers who read this and appreciated similar feelings. Because how many? I mean, there are only two other comic book characters I know who have like contemplated suicide. One is Daredevil. If you've ever read Guardian Devil, after Karen Page was killed by Bullseye, he had a gun up to his head. And another is Vigilante, who did kill himself. And so it's not a common thing to see heroes kind of go through this. It's one thing to be like Spider-Man and like, nothing goes right. And it's another thing like you are absolutely worthless. Like you can't get out from under this badness that's a part of you. And so she seeks death. And the fact that like she's surrounded by so many individuals who are looking out for her, like Bruce and Barbara and Dick and Tim, and they're practically nowhere near this story. It's pretty tragic. Yeah. And I just think about who raised each of those individuals. I mean, with the exception of Jason Todd, all of them came from loving homes. And so their self-worth was not wrapped up in what Cass's self-worth was wrapped up in, which with Kane, is really her performance and being able to fight effectively and all of that. And even though there are some sweet moments between Kane and Cass, we know that wasn't the bulk of her history. So I think that also messes with the person too, just, parenting and who raised them and how were they raised too. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm moving on to this scene right here. Oh my goodness. And the shocked eyes there and everything. So this is, if you're just tuning in, I guess, to keep track of Cass on this show, you missed Bruce Jerk Murderer. And right now, Batman is actually in jail. So my question is, why are you laughing? Do you feel like Babs might feel freer because he's not around, because they decided they were just going to let her do this whole thing, even though Barbara was against that in issue 23? Is that what it was? Or 22? It was 23.
Okay. But she she shows the video. She fully attempts to prevent Cass from fighting. Do you think she feels freer she has the ability to do this now that Batman is in jail and away from the scene?
I never considered that. Yeah. Gosh.
Would she have done, I mean, as another way do you think she would have done it had Batman been around?
I think she would have. That's my thing too. Like whether she's like, that whole thing that happened in the Batcave was horrible. So like, I don't think that she can like separate her mind that much. Of course she can. She's Oracle. But when I'm seeing this scene, it's not so much she's trying to get around Batman. It's just, she's trying to save Cassandra. So whether it does take place in that or not, it's sort of like an imperative rather than sort of a navigation. So I think I'm not copying out when I say, like, if that Bruce Wayne murderer weren't going around and Batman wasn't there, she would still do this, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the fence about it. I think if Batman had still been around, I think she still would have done it. I mean, she is not the type of woman who, if Batman tells me not to do something, I'm going to listen to him necessarily. But I wonder if she would have done it in another fashion. Like, this is really forceful. Like, yeah, she's really going out there and she's like, I know what you're planning. You need to not do that. I wonder if she would have had more of a conversation rather than usually using this visual media. Though then I think about, we had that discussion where Batman is completely denying that this is Cass in the video. So that's really interesting that Cass basically non-verbally, I don't think she doesn't really say, yes, it's me, but you can absolutely tell that it's her. So it would have been interesting to see what Batman would have done in this. But he probably would have been yelling at Oracle. Oracle turn it off, so he wouldn't have seen all that. So it just would have been really interesting. It would have completely changed, I think, the dynamic had Batman been there. So I'm glad he's not. But
that's a great point, actually. If Batman were here, like, let's say that, like, instead of Cassandra saving that guy from jumping off, like, she was out with Batman, and later on tonight I'm gonna kill myself with Shiva, and like she's like, Batgirl, I need you, and Batman just tagged along and he saw this. I think if Batman were there and Oracle laid it out like that, I would like to think he would be inclined to, like, you know what, Barbara's right, you can't do this, because it's the visualization of seeing it, and also seeing Cassandra react towards it. Like, you can see it on her face. Like, there's no subterfuge with her. She yells stop. She yelled stop when her father tried to kill Gordon, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a very important word for her. So I think in that instance, that Batman not heard about this or like was in on this plan, but like had just experienced this with Cassandra, as Cassandra experienced in the room, he might be inclined to like agree with Babs, and so she would have to like poke both of them in the chest.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Let's get to that. Let's do it. I've got some major issues with this. But you should have known.
She's never betrayed anyone in her life.
So whatever. So before we started recording this particular episode, you actually made a comment about Barbara wearing a shirt in the recent Nightwing, kind of really throwing in his face some previous trauma that he may have experienced, namely, you said domestic violence, which I guess technically it is, but him being slapped by Batman. And I just want to say I said how ironic, and then started clacking away on my computer. So I remember that. Oh my goodness. This is what I said. How inappropriate and invasive is it for Cass to, and in all caps, you didn't say it, but I'm saying it, paralyze Babs.
I tried not to laugh.
You're a terrible human being. Look at the optics. These are terrible optics. No one was thinking about what this would be like. Look at her head. Oh, wait, is it at the bottom? It's like, okay, The Killing Joke right now, starring Cassandra Cain.
No, don't say that.
Well, that's what it feels like to me. She just took out her top half. Her bottom half was already non-mobile, and now we've got this. Don't you think this is inappropriate?
No.
You've got to be kidding. Are you really saying that?
As I was recapping it, I was like, yeah, this is kind of worse than I tend to read it, just because it is actually really is paralyzing her.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. She apologizes twice. Does that make it better?
It doesn't make it doesn't make it better.
Like, that is quite it's dark, right? It means more towards Barbara specifically Oracle, than it would if she were to do that to like Tim, right?
Yeah.
Like she did to Tim, I don't think he would be like upset about it. But I don't know. That's
the only reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's Barbara. Is this talked about at all? Do they have a little confab like, hey, that was?
I don't think
that
so.
was really, I don't know, invasive or.
I mean, but here's, I mean, I don't. It doesn't.
And this is why. ...
Well, to Cassandra, it doesn't matter because, like, one, it'll wear off, and two, like, she will be dead, so she won't be able to like get. Barbara won't be able to slap her. Like, I think I understand what you're saying. That like that's a level of cruelty that we didn't expect, but I think it's true of the characters, and so I have a hard time. Granted, you know, Barbara Gordon's not my favorite character, so there's an automatic lack of investment.
Yep.
But seeing this in terms of, like, you know, how are the characters carrying on? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, Barbara apologizes because she is presenting, this is your trauma, this is your childhood trauma that's kind of, you know, giving you this PTSD all your life right in front of you. I'm sorry I had to do this, but I'm doing this because I want you to stop. And Cassandra paralyzes her because she is trying to like make up for it. And so there are a couple of extremes going on. And I'm not going to necessarily weigh in Cass hitting her pressure point in her chest and freezing her towards Babs, bringing back to life like Cassandra's murder. But I do think that like it's not as though that like neither, you know, both characters in this scene are kind of being extreme. And so I don't think that like there is like, whoa, that's too far, because they're both going too far. I just don't think that like that's the thing where like, you know, oh, you can bring up her childhood trauma, but Cass can't do that to you. I mean, this is where the characters are. These are these people, and so it's where the story takes them. Quite frankly,
I guess they're both trying to help the other out potentially, or maybe they're both trying to help Cass out.
Well, I really want to like take this seriously though. I mean, is this something that like I don't read this as like a joke on Barbara exactly, like, because ideally,
I hope not. I didn't read it like that. That's why I was I think it's serious, but I think there's a layer there.
There's absolutely a layer there, but also, I mean, she would be still frozen if she could walk, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, yes, there is an added layer. I mean, she goes from like she's completely immobilized, and that's an added violation. Absolutely, it is. But I don't know if I think whatever edge there is in that is confined in the scene and not it doesn't become sick to me just because it's an actual thing. I don't know, like there is this this is interesting. So there is a scene in Star Trek 6 where Spock does like the mind meld on a fellow Vulcan. Who is it? It was one of the Sex and the City women, and to basically get some information. And I thought it was a very well shot scene, and very dramatic, but a lot of people kind of basically said he mind raped her because of the way that she reacts to it is really extreme and kind of horrific, and they don't really comment on basically him torturing her for information. And kind of, you know, that's not only should people not torture, but also that's not how characters in the future would do that. So like it's one of those things that, like, you know, people say however you like that movie, that scene should not have been in there. And I could see that argument, but I think that like it's fine for the characters as long as you properly deal with it. And I think with this, I don't know if this is. I don't know if I would compare it the same, just because one, it's temporary, but also like the focus is more on where Cass is mentally. Like she's determined to die, and even if she has to kind of like literally freeze, like she could have had Freeze's freeze gun and done the same thing. So at this moment in time, I don't see this as like they shouldn't have done that kind of thing. I just kind of see this as like, wow, that shows her determination, rather than any some sort of like perversive nature on the side of the writers.
I guess I would almost prefer Cass to knock her out.
I like this because I think it's, I don't know, there's something like less is more. I think if you're just like punched out Oracle in her chair, I feel that Gail Simone would have done that, but I think that like it's better here, just because it's quick, it's silent, it's, you know, Cass has her hand, has Oracle's face in her hand. It's intimate in that kind of familial way. So there's a tragedy towards it mixed in with you know, kind of like, I guess the general sort of emotional violence going on in the scene.
Well, folks, this is where, I mean, take a picture. This is where Cass turns into a villain. It wasn't in 2009. It was right here.
Yeah, people write in. Write in. Let us know what you think.
I do want to know. Yeah, I think you and I will just disagree on that, but I think it does come from the fact that we're Barbara. We have different degrees of connection with Barbara Gordon. But reading this now, and I think when I first read through this run, I don't think it would have had as much of an emotional impact. But because I'm inundated, it seems like constantly with Killing Joke stuff, and then going through Killing Joke and then reading this, it sort of has changed my perspective. But I also thank you for bringing that up, that Barbara was a bit violent, emotionally violent as well, with trying to snap Cass out of it. So okay. Oh, this first fight, which I like how you said that it was windy. I do like that. I think it adds dynamic.
Yeah, it looks magical.
Yeah, for sure. Let's start singing A Whole New World. Do you think that this first fight was too easy? Especially if we compare it to the final fight, which goes on a bit longer. Cass can actually lay some hits on her. Do you feel like Cass was maybe not trying hard enough and really just wanting to die? Which we do know that she wants to die, but
I think that I think what it was, not that she wasn't trying, but that she went whole hog, she threw away her defenses, right? It was like a full blown offensive assault without care for leaving herself wide open and stuff. So it's like she was trying, but she wasn't being she wasn't trying. How I say it? Because trying your best doesn't automatically mean she was lazy and she wasn't trying to beat Shiva. She was trying to beat Shiva fast and furiously, but she wasn't being. I know. In theaters tomorrow.
Yes! I'm so excited.
Oh, the family. But she wasn't being professional in the fight. And there's dialogue about this in the Robin series a few years back about when all you have to bring into a fight is emotions you've already lost. That's a Chuck Dixon line. And I think that what she's just doing is she's just going all out without care for herself. And later on, it's not so much that she's looking out for herself, but she's fighting a lot smarter. She's not taking hits. She's not taking hits that she knows that she can deflect or evade. Mm-hmm. Where here, I don't think you see her block at all. She's just attacking.
Yeah. I feel like when I don't know, it was just so shocking how quickly this particular fight ended. When I look at the second fight, the final fight at the end, I think, oh yeah, this is Cassandra fighting, and she's really going at it now. So I feel like there is a bit of a block there. Her desire is to die. So that might maybe subconsciously be affecting also her style and what she's doing. But the other one, I think now that she's quote unquote over it, which we'll talk about, that she's really able to go all in with that fight. So I do like that second fight better, I think. But this is still stylishly beautiful. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are some gentle caresses. Let's look at these gentle 1, 2.
What do you think of 5. When Shiva kills her, that shot?
Oh, this right here. Oh, this blow.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. It reminds me of something. Didn't someone else have a one punch kill? I can't remember. I feel like it might be a film or something.
Kill Bill. It was the 5-point touch of death or something.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, it's interesting. I almost wish maybe it'd be too macabre, but for Cass to smile in the end, this is what I wanted, but we don't get there. It's total shock that she landed a hit. But I kind of think, well, this is what you wanted, wasn't it? So is there no joy in the end that okay, my worthless life is over?
No, I don't think it's her oh my God, she's killed me. I think it's just her body reacting. When your body has a mortal blow, your body's not going to go along with that. It's going to fight it. So I'm sure she's just twitching and stuff.
Sure, I'm sure. Can't show that in a comic book. Yeah, man. Okay. Oh, I guess more caresses. There are many gentle caresses.
Yes.
And my question was, if Shiva weren't Cass's parent, how would you explain those gentle caresses? So I guess now being in 2002, not knowing Cassandra's parentage at this moment. How do you explain these gentle caresses?
Trademark Stella.
Thank you. And I also want to say that I'm not thinking homoerotically. I'm just like, oh, why is she being kind and gentle to her? I think you understood what I was going, but I just don't want other people to think I'm like, oh, there's some lesbian activity going on. That's not what I was saying.
No. I think that even back when they first met, they understand each other on a level that Oracle and Batman do not. So I think as fighters, she cares to bring, of course, and again, like how many times do we see Shiva fight against teenagers? That's not Tim Drake. It's like she understands Cass, she understands her skills, and she here clearly knew that she was trying to die, so she kind of just gave her what she wanted, and she doesn't care to just like leave her and spit on her. She's gently easing her into the next life, and I think, and honestly, that's Shiva. Shiva, and you can get a lot of this if you read Let's Talk Shiva's Twitter's profile. A lot of this is from The Question. A lot of this characterization stems from Denny O'Neill's The Question, where he brought, because he created Shiva, and he brought her back in a much more philosophically minded, much more unpredictable, nuanced way, where she's not going to just like take a gun and shoot somebody or whatever. She doesn't even mind if like you're that different from her. So she's going to, like, she did the same thing with The Question. She killed The Question, and she brought him back to life. This is something that she did at least once before. So it's characteristic of her to see somebody's change through death through. It's actually in the name Shiva, right? In some ways.
So do you think that she gently caressed that man whose house she stole?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's not everyone.
No, I think it's people that she has interest in.
Okay.
Like if she were to do this to Batman, I think she would do that to Batman, even though she has no familiar interest in him.
Okay. I can see that. And now, with me knowing that Shiva is her parent, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. But not knowing, it's like, oh, why is she caressing?
I still read this. I mean, yes, they are canonically now mother and daughter, but I still read these stories without having that in mind. Like I can read this and like not question, because this wasn't written with her as a mother. There's no reason why she would do that. I can still see that as like her doing that, being part of her character.
I mean, if she killed Tim, I could totally see that happening.
I think she dislikes Tim more. But,
dislikes,
maybe.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I think Tim's gotten
or just likes Tim more.
I think she dislikes.
Oh, dislikes.
Yeah.
I'm shocked to hear you say that.
Oh, I mean, like she was at the end of his original Robin time. I mean, she doesn't hate Tim, but I think Tim's gotten on her nerves a couple of times, and so she's like, she said, I'm not going to forget this. Like, she's not going to like take his head off, but she's like, yeah, you're not getting away from that in the future.
Okay, so this one punch back to life
comic book. that's the only explanation for it.
I guess it's like using Tony Stark's. Wait, no, it was using Thor's hammer to jumpstart somebody's heart. I can't remember.
Or it was like in Fast and the Furious 7, when like it seemed that Dom had died when the cars collapsed, and Letty brought him back through the power of love.
Yes, thank you. Well, hey, how dare you laugh at that award-winning cinema?
Oh, you're serious? Allow me to laugh even louder.
I bet. I really liked this irony, I suppose, that you find out Cass is basically, she's trained for a year to, let's just say to die. And Shiva trained for a year knowing that Cass, there's a good chance Cass was going to die and that she was going to bring her back from the dead.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that say about really Shiva?
Again, I like taking out the fact that like their mother and daughter, and I don't even remember how long Shiva knew that. This is part of the original O'Neill character, where Shiva is amoral, I think. Or if she's not amoral, if I'm getting that definition wrong, she's somebody whose morals can't be easily predicted. If she wants to fight you and kill you, she will kill you. Mm-hmm. But if she's beaten, she's not going to hate you. And if it wants to see you develop, like again, in issue 1 of The Question, she beats the living crap out of him. It leaves him to die. And then the next one, she brings him back to life and takes him to Richard Dragon. And The Question changes. He went from a very much conservative, objectivist Steve Ditko character to a much more philosophically minded, Zen-like Denny O'Neil character. And that death and rebirth was the catalyst. And here she says, how do you feel? And Cass says, I feel different. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing. And so Shiva is interested in these people changing and becoming, not even so much becoming different or better opponents from them, but just she takes an interest in them.
Yeah. Like a pet project almost.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. Do you get a sense that she'd probably be watching her, from now on, seeing her progress?
Well, again, she knew right away that Cass was Batgirl and was with Batman. And I think it was only when we did it for the podcast, I was like, how does she know that? But she just does. Yeah. I mean, at this point, I don't think it's somewhere along the line, she knows that Bruce Wayne's Batman, but I don't think that's set up in here. She definitely did not know in the 90s, but like she could tell. And so, there's this young female martial artist. She has a certain respect for Batman, but also a certain annoyance by Batman. So she just takes an interest in Cass. And so, Cass is extremely good. She's fighting in a way that none of the others fight. And she's fighting to me to die. Then I want to make sure I know why. So she brings it back.
Do you feel like Cass truly died? Does this quote unquote death absolve her of the murder she committed? I did say guilt initially and then erased it. And then is it really karma? Was that used correctly?
I mean, I don't even know if Cass knows or understands karma typically. I mean, she understands it essentially, but not like that. I don't think she has it in her head. That's what it is. But I think that I do think she died.
Okay.
It's a comic book, but it's also like not important. What's important is how she feels about herself, and that she's absolved of this albatross of emotion that she has with the guy, because it wasn't her fault. And so, if she was killed, then she could say that she was being equal with the universe in, taking something away or putting something through experience that she's not gone through. I guess a lot of it's kind of left in the margins, and a lot of it's kind of like left to be interpreted. And that's the best of my interpretation.
I guess I disagree with you mainly because she's still here. How is it equal? Yeah, she died for an incident. Now she's back. But if she really wanted to make up for it, shouldn't she remain dead? Like her life for a life, not this like life and then resurrection. Like I don't really understand how this can be a true death. And this is something that they're trying to convince Nightwing of, that, you didn't kill Joker. He may have like died for a minute, but he's back now. And so how can we say that over there, but over here we can say, oh no, you've died. You're all clean now. You're washed. Like this page does not make sense to me. In fact, I feel like she's still alive. That guilt should remain with her. I don't know why she feels different. This page is just a big question mark for me. And so I disagree with you.
I think it's fair. And I think, honestly, I think you're right. There is something to this issue that feels a little too easy. Obviously, I don't want Cass to go anywhere, but it does feel awfully simple that she is kind of like, her baggage is kind of like left in the background. I mean, it carries with her here and there, definitely. Like she still has difficulty connecting with people, but her like death wish is largely put to pasture.
Yeah.
Her issues kind of become something else, which are still very much in character, but like the death wish is not there. And this has been argued that like this is kind of the end of the series, because at this point the series was outselling the Robin title, and the fundamental the raison d'etre for this character was her death wish. Like the creation was, there's this nice girl who is great at everything. She's a great, perfect fighter, and she's Batman's perfect partner, and she's a really nice person, but she has a death wish. That was kind of like the idea for her character conception. And with that absolved, you could argue that like there's nowhere else to go with Cassandra. How else do you develop her? And this is kind of why I think that the last year of the Puckett run isn't as engaging for me as the first 2 years. And I do agree that like it does feel a little too easy in this issue, that he just, Shiva's just going to take it away from her. Now Shiva does it in a way which makes sense for Shiva.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that's been established before, although it's been a long time since she did it before. But with Cass, you do kind of want a little bit more self-reflection and kind of her exploring her feelings after that, rather than just, I feel different. And maybe she doesn't know what that means, but we're led to believe that it's something positive. And that is a little, that's a tiny bit of cop out.
Do we explore what that different is? And then does she also have conversations with Barbara and Bruce? about
No,
this?
not really. I mean, her deal is, her hangs with her father, her relationship with Stephanie Brown, her relationship with the rest of the Bat family, but it's much less. It's relieved of a lot of that tension.
Okay.
Like there's still some things that that she has a hard time connecting with and that kind of stuff, but there's much less of a doomsday clock on it as it was leading up to the Shiva fight.
Okay. Well, so I'll just be unsatisfied. Okay. Yeah, I would love to have, her and Barbara talk about it. Like, okay, so how do you, I don't know.
You think Barbara's mad at her?
Do I think she's mad at her? Ugh, I think she is, but I also think that when she sees her, well, because I would be like, never do that to me again. But also, I think when she sees Cass, she'd be really relieved that she'll be like. So I think that feeling would, or those feelings would probably trump the feelings of anger and everything. But she'd have a talking to. I think she would like to go through and what is that called when like military people debrief this whole situation. And then, what does that mean for you, Cass, and everything? I'd love to see that on page. I think that'd be an interesting conversation.
Absolutely.
So parallel to this, of course, is Shiva, and we find out they have more in common and that she also has a bit of a death wish as well. And I wondered, is it just that Shiva wants to die, or does she want an honorable death and she's seeking that fighter that can beat her? And she'd be like, finally, I've met my match and I've been bested. I can die in peace.
I think that the idea is that she wants to die. She's seeking fighter. She's the greatest fighter ever, and she wants to die as a fighter. Because there are origin stories that like she grew up with her sister, and her sister was killed, and so she wanted revenge. She was first led to believe that Richard Dragon killed her sister, but it was a bad guy. And once she took her revenge, she was basically a thrill seeker. Like in the original Richard Dragon story, she was just like, "Oh, I'm always up for adventure. Nothing scares me," and she would just like beat every ass that came across her path. And then later on, she was almost like a spiritual presence that you first see her in the question like rolling some mobsters, but then she kind of like wanders off, and then she kind of takes care of the question and kind of comes in and out. Then she's hanging out with martial arts masters and stuff. And then in Batman, you see her like training terrorists in like the Middle East and stuff, and like being suspected as Jason Todd's mother. So it's kind of random. I like the version of Shiva who's not an out-and-out villain. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that she's at all connected with the League of Assassins. Like, she wouldn't care. But here, I think there is a logic to. I mean, it's a little easy that she's looking for a death wish, but so I think that's what it is. I think that she's fought the best, and she wants to die by the best, and that's an easier track for her line of thinking. Now, of course, if you add in the whole mother thing, being killed by her daughter's kind of neat. But if we're just thinking on the idea, this is simply Lady Shiva. Yeah, she rates Batgirl as the best, and she wants to be killed by her. And it's a cool thing that Cass recognizes that. So she beats her, but doesn't kill her. Mm-hmm. And so there's that added tension of like, can Cass do it again, or is Shiva, has she plateaued?
Yeah, that was my follow up. Actually, which you answered it, that if Shiva ever gets killed, should Cass be the one to do it?
The final storyline in Cass's title is the Return of Shiva.
Oh my gosh! Well, I won't be on the show to talk about that.
Hey, I'll still be alive then.
And should Shiva be the one to kill Cass if Cass were to ever die?
Well, I like the fact that she did kill Cass. I like that part of her history.
Right.
So when Shiva murdered Cassandra, I don't think Cass should ever die.
Okay.
But Shiva dying by Cass, yeah, that rates. I forget what happened in the tie-in Detective Comics storyline when they, as I know that like Shiva was shot and then she was brought back in Batman the Outsiders, and in Batman the Outsiders she's just kind of like like Cass is working with Batman, and she was like, I'm cooler than he is, and she's kind of like just off on the sidelines, but she's there the entire time, and then at the end she drugs Batman and like lets Cass loose. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Their relationship is kind of a question mark because of where it's going to end up. But it's been established that Shiva loves Cass, which I wish there was a little bit more exploration. I think that's a little lazy. Not that she's incapable of love, but like it's like, you are my daughter and I love you. And it's like, I don't know if that sounds right, but like I know that they love fighting each other. Yeah. It's very anime that way.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's like the sisters on Kill la Kill.
Yeah, Satsuki and Ryuko.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite scenes is when Satsuki is falling from the atmosphere naked, and her sister
Ryuko is
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, and then and Satsuki, sorry, I got them confused. And then Satsuki is running naked in order to catch her. I'm like, oh, it's sisterly love. I enjoyed that. Okay, final question is, I suppose, a silly one, but it's really, it gets my goat. I have a few pet peeves about comics. One is off-panel land. Another one is, you guessed it, I mean, Donovan, you mentioned it, is when someone appears in their costume and there's really no conceivable, like, why, how did this happen, that kind of stuff. And so here we have it. Does Shiva just have a Batgirl costume laying around? Is this just a weird thing and we should just accept it? Do you have any thoughts on this, how she appears in her Batgirl costume?
Yeah. I think that if I were to imagine, Cass just brought her suit along with her just in case someone needed her. And so when she's like twitching in the background, Shiva kind of looks around and sees it, knowing that she plans on bringing Cass back, and understanding in her few interactions with the cast that being Batgirl means so much to her that she would rather fight her in her truest self.
Yeah,
that's what it reminds me of. Batman the Animated Series, when Batman's getting stripped by Ra's al Ghul, and Ubu reaches for his cowl, like, his master his master. He's like, no, leave it. It's a marker of honor. It's like Shiva respects Cass to fight her at her fullest extent, so she'll be dressed as Batgirl, even though she doesn't have her mask on. But like, I think everybody, as cool as that mask is, everybody likes when Cass is unmasked.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see a backpack as I was scrolling through, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that explanation. Also, because she knew she was going to die, I don't know why she would bring something and like, oh, well, in case I live and there's a robbery, then I will have my clothing. So I don't accept your answer, but I'll accept it for ease of whatever. I don't know. Okay, well, I think that's it for me and my questioning and demanding of answers. Is it rating time? What should we rate it? Out of 10 inappropriate point touches that cause paralysis, what would you give? Oh my gosh, I don't even want to ask you. I don't even want to ask you. Yeah, how would you rate this?
I thought it was going to be out of 10 boobs because of the cover, but
oh my gosh, she's got 3 of them. Do you want me to pull that up again? No, I'm just kidding. I know it's.
We agreed that it wasn't.
I know we did, but people, I hope you look more closely. Carolyn, this is for you. Okay, what do you think? Out
of 10 cups of regenerative teas, I will give this. You look so disappointed. I will give this a 9. What'd you say?
Yeah, what'd you say? I can't replicate that. Wow. Okay.
Only because I think genuinely getting rid of Batgirl's death wish. Oh, well, she dies. She's brought back, and that's it. Is kind of weak, but it's still high.
Yeah, I'll be really close to you and say 8.5 out of 10 inappropriate point touches that cause paralysis. I agree with just that one page. I don't like it. Just it doesn't make sense to me. And then, I don't like that Cassandra paralyzes Barbara. But I'm the only one here on this show that cares about it. Man.
And don't you forget.
What if they had like a thought, like a little like a flashback panel that's Barbara laying sprawled in the broken glass table, clutching her gut? Then would you have changed your opinion? If they actually showed a panel that compared the touching to the Killing Joke?
I don't know if that'd be necessary.
Well, it's not Barbara's book, so it would have been a bit weird. Like, oh, why can we see inside Barbara's head when it's Cassandra's book? But anyways, we don't have to. I would love to hear what people have to say about that, though, what their thoughts are. Okay. Any other thoughts on 25?
I love these characters. Again, this is one of the best characters, and not for nothing, these 2 Asian characters who are drawn differently, but still realistic without looking stereotypical. Mm-hmm. This issue is full of women. Batman's not here. The chief characters are like Batgirl, Oracle, and Shiva. Suicide Guy doesn't count. A lot of storytelling is done without dialogue. It's character driven. It's emotional. Cassandra considers Barbara as a mother while going to get killed by her own mother. Yeah. We learn more about Shiva. It's, I probably should give it a 10, but I'll leave it with a 9 just because this is what's good in the Batman family more so than other stuff, I think.
Yeah. Overall, I would say that I enjoyed it. I think there's just the storytelling on that one page confuses me, but yeah, I love the emotional toil and back and that Cass goes through. It's not an easy decision for what she's doing, and she realizes it. And so to see that and have her struggle with the message to Babs got me, and then Batjerk, of course, who will never hear that message.
What did you think about the whole Shiva storyline as a whole? Because this was a storyline.
It's true, yeah. She pops up here and there. I liked it. I think it was really interesting. I think that it is able to weave in and out of the Cassandra story as a whole, and it really ties in with everything she's going through, training, taking up Batman's belief system and value system, going through what she's going through with the guilt that she's carried for years and what's the value of a human being. All of this is thread together, losing her ability to read body language. So she's almost the thread that connects all these disparate parts of Cassandra's life. And so I like how that happens. I also like Shiva. I think it was Martin Gray that said Shiva was boring and there's too much Shiva.
Oh, yeah. That disgusted me.
It depends on, I think he was on for a Birds of Prey story. I think I enjoy Shiva. I have yet to watch that new animated film that they have, but seeing her always excites me. So I think I don't think she was done well in the Birds of Prey. Ooh, what was that? The second Gail Simone run? I think that was the only the poorest incarnation I've read. I'm sure there are others that I've just not read, but yeah.
Well, both of these characters have a lot of versions of them where they were done terribly. So
yeah, I know it happens to all of us, unfortunately.
Unendingly.
I know. Okay. So that's it for our main event. So I just have one listener email, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll do our modern quickies and word your recommendation. That's it.
Mail time. Mail time. Mail time. Mail time. Mail's here. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
So this actually came from Facebook. I've been having some conversations with this gentleman about Resident Evil. So this is from Jaime Valdez Lopez. He said, I really enjoyed your Resident Evil podcast with Harrison. Don't call him that. This is off the topic of Resident Evil, but one thing I found interesting is that you consider Cloud Strife to be one of those blank slate protagonists. In the original Final Fantasy VII, I feel that term is applicable to Cloud because the player has more choices over his dialogue. Whereas in the first game of the remake series, Cloud's character is more defined, especially as you put it, through his interactions with the other main characters. I'm very interested to see where the remake series takes Cloud's character from here, because while his arc in the original game was going from self-loathing to self-acceptance, his role in the remake series is a bit more unclear due to some of the possible story changes. Of course, I'm sure you can go over all this whenever you get around to discussing Final Fantasy VII Remake in detail. To bring this back to Resident Evil, if you're interested in playing other games in the series that aren't quite as dated, I recommend Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2. Also, so long as you don't mind tank controls and fixed camera angles, I don't know, they make me nervous. I recommend the original remake of the first Resident Evil. You can typically find it in a bundle pack with Resident Evil 0, which has its moments but isn't as good, as both games were originally released on the Nintendo GameCube back in the early 2000s. I think the graphics of the first game's remakes still hold up pretty well. I actually end up taking your recommendation. I haven't played it yet, but I put Revelations 1 and 2, and then I found 5 and 6 on GameFly for PS4. So I guess I'll give those a shot whenever. Because I wanted to read this. Thank you for writing in, by the way. But with you, Donovan, I have to say, when he wrote, you get around to discussing Final Fantasy VII, I don't think I would do it until all 3 games were out, but you would be my go-to guy to talk about that. I'm sure that would be a really long podcast, but do you feel like Cloud is a blank slate or silent protagonist, whether in the original or in the remake?
Well, I mean, like I remember when you mentioned that part, and I would not say he's silent because obviously he talks, and even in the original, yeah, Jaime is right in that. Like originally, there was a lot more. Like I mean, his name doesn't have to be Cloud. Like you could choose his name, choose what he says. The remake has options. Like when Tifa's making her drink, you can choose what kind of drink you want and stuff. But I feel that there's a little less. There's less options for you to choose and characterize him than there was in the original. In terms of him being a blank slate, that's actually eventually a major part of his character. And like, I don't mean in like an Ethan kind of way where like, oh, well, he represents this. I mean that like major spoil. I'm not saying major spoilers, but it's a major spoiler in the second half of the game about his background and who he is
as a
like
soldier,
that,
or even before that.
Yeah. As a soldier, what happened between him, Tifa, and Sephiroth, and even even in the last act of the game, like there you learn things about Cloud in terms of like who he is, and that could be described as a blank slate. That become oh, this changes everything, or this explains everything for me, and so some of that is very much intentional.
Gotcha. Do you think that if we did, I mean, that would be what, 10 years from now? If 10 years from now and we're still friends and we do a podcast on Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm just throwing out 10, but I think it took a while.
Like 5 for this one.
Didn't it? Yeah. So, it could be 15. So 10 years from now. Yeah. So in 2031, if we podcast about that, do you think that will be longer than my episode with Harold on The Last of Us Part 2? That was 6 hours. Do you think we'll break that record?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because I like to talk and hear myself talk.
Yeah, I know. We can talk all about Jesse Raspberry. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
You still have that voicemail? We could play that voicemail back when I yelled at you.
Yeah, okay, let's do it right now.
No, let's do it right now. Okay. Well, thank you for writing in. Remember, you can, choose anything. I see when the Facebook messages pop up, so I do appreciate that. And you can always email me, batgirltheoracle@gmail.com, or even post on the actual website of the Batman universe. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're just going to briefly look at Batman 109 and Nightwing 81. But first is Isis Radio Hour featuring Vertigo by Alice Merton. See you soon. Welcome back. This should be, I mean, I always say it. Maybe I should never say it. I'm just not going to say it. So we have two modern quickies. One of them's Batman. One of them's Nightwing. We'll do What Are You Wearing, which Donovan really already showed himself, but I'm wearing a special t-shirt and we can talk about Barbara on it. And then literature recommendations, and that's it. So modern quickies, if you recall, I will give creator credits and then what the publisher said what the synopsis was, and then what Barbara, oh my gosh, most people use their hands, and then what Barbara's role is in this particular book. With Nightwing, we'll just probably flip through and talk about some things, but not too extensive. So we'll start with Batman 109, Cowardly Lot Part 4, writer James Tynion IV, artist George Jimenez. It is George. It's George.
Is it Jimenez?
Huh? It's definitely Jimenez, but it's George. I only know this because of a patient. And then colors Tomu More. Main story, Mayor Nakano greenlights the magistrate pilot program for Gotham City as Batman goes toe-to-toe with the augmented and bloodthirsty Peacekeeper 01. It's a brutal battle for the ages, but what secrets does Harley Quinn hold about the man beneath the armor, Sean Mahoney? And how does this all play into the Scarecrow's hands? Back up. Ghostmaker is fighting through incredible odds to reach the nefarious Madam Midas, but will his next opponent, Brainstorm, be impossible to overcome? Brainstorm is one of the aliens in Ben 10. That was kind of funny. So Barbara, she updates Bruce on what has happened in the city because he's finally gotten rid of his matches Malone. He's been incommunicado, and the threat of the Scarecrow attack while he was on his little field trip to Wonderland, as she says. She's also eating some shawarma. If you remember, shawarma became very big after the Avengers film. Everyone wanted to eat shawarma. Batman tells her to contact Ghostmaker and get Batman some info on Simon Saint. And Batman says that Ghostmaker isn't susceptible to fear toxin in the way that some members of the Batman family are, because she actually says, why do we have to reach out to Ghostmaker when you have a bunch of other people that could help you? And it's like, no. They're susceptible to fear, and this guy isn't. So that was interesting. And Oracle basically has to bust her way into Ghostmaker's system to actually talk to him. So she's really got to work her technological magic. So that's basically it. I think she's still wearing the same outfit that she did 3 parts ago, which is fine. Maybe it's one night. We can allow this. Okay. And then we've got Nightwing 81, Leaping into the Light Part 4, writer Tom Taylor, artist Bruno Redondo, and colors Adriano Lucas. Dick Grayson trades out his Eskrima sticks for a magnifying glasses, and a sleuth hat to investigate Bloodhaven's new mayor, Melinda Zuko, and find out how the daughter of the man who murdered Dick's parents came to power in Nightwing City. But his investigative adventure is cut short when he comes face to face with the most horrendous villain in the history of Bloodhaven, Heartless. Oh, would you agree? As someone who knows Nightwing, is that the most horrendous villain he's ever faced in Bloodhaven, I suppose? Kind of interesting. That's an extreme statement to make.
My mind is going through the Rolodex of Nightwing rogues galleries. I mean, I guess that cutting hearts out of the homeless people is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Let's see. Torque wasn't doing that. Brutal wasn't doing that. Double Dare wasn't doing that. I mean, he has so much more to go, but we'll see.
We'll see indeed. Okay. So we mentioned this, or in passing, I guess we mentioned it, but Barbara, if I scroll.
It's a jerk.
How dare you say that? But Barbara here, my first, maybe I'll come back to it, gosh, because apparently I'm going to have to flip through a bunch of stuff. I will say, I should have said that in the beginning. Yeah, Oracle can't see what Nightwing is up against since Heartless has his clothing covered in infrared lights and it's blinding the camera. If you remember, she's looped in basically to his gear, his mask. And Dick has to narrate the fight to her, which is funny, mainly because Heartless is saying, do you normally narrate your fights? And later in the fight, she actually patches in the Maritime Distress Channel, and the boats are named after previous Nightwing
Yes,
writers.
They are.
So Devin, of course, was one of the first ones that I had. Yeah, Devin and
Tim Seeley.
Yep. Jurgens,
Rick Leonardi.
Yeah, Fernandez I did not recognize.
Yeah, Fernandez was one of the artists from Nightwing Rebirth. The one I missed out on when I wrote my review was Constant, and that was the name of a creator during Future State.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And the whole thing, if anyone has seen Dunkirk, it certainly felt like that, where basically it was like an all call, like, please come and help. We've got these kids on this pier. And then Nightwing was really, it was a great scene though, because no one's responding, and Nightwing has such faith in the city, like, please come to our aid. And then they do. So that was great. And okay, here we are. Yes.
Oh, God.
And I was prepared for something, because Donovan he usually gets review copies, and he says, he texted me and said, pay attention to Barbara's shirt and let me know if you have it. And so it's that slapping scene. And of course she's pulling it off with a nice little blazer. But do you think that there should have been a conversation, or Dick should have said, why are you wearing that?
He wakes up from a concussion, and like that's the first thing he sees, and she's like, "Yeah, what?" and like I don't know, when she says, "I have 3," I know this references like their names, which is a nice line, but it's also like 3 copies of their shirt. But like, I do like the little blink and you miss it visual references. It's funny, and again, like, I like the fact that like this is not really the point we're talking about. Like so far, the supporting cast is like Dick, Babs, and Tim.
Yeah,
that's really awesome.
I love it, and those are, and it's interesting to think back to, we did Bruce Jerk Murderer, and those sort of that triangle of Bruce, this Bruce wouldn't murder, Bruce may have, Bruce is, acting a bit weird. And it was those three, it was those 3 people having those challenging conversations. So it's nice to have these, and they all have distinct relationships with each other. So I agree. And then the dog is really, it's catching on. So now Bitewing. And Dick also wants to name her Haley. And so that's, where the, Robin has. That's interesting. Robin, wouldn't he also have 3 names? Or does he like consider Red Robin defunct now? Or that didn't
that's a good point. Well, yeah, because obviously like 2 names is like, they're secret identities, but it's also like with Bart, like I have 3, like Babs, Bart, Batgirl, and Oracle. Even with Tim, it would be like either Tim or Robin, or Tim, Red Robin, Drake, or Robin.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Babs also looks. What'd you say?
This artwork is awesome.
Oh, I agree. I was just about to say, like, it's beautiful, and the layouts and things. I think there's another scene of him. Yeah, like this. I like these little sort of schematic. No, I guess not really schematic, but showing what he is doing very precisely in the motions and physics.
And his agreement sticks are much more functional now. They usually were just like martial arts artist items, but now they're like they can do a lot more things, which is kind of cool.
Yes. I was going to sort of critique, I guess, just that Barbara is looking into the new Mayor Zuko. I found it a little unbelievable that she can't find unredacted files. I mean, she's broken into all sorts of, I think she broke into the NSA. She's breaking into the Pentagon and using their satellite system and Birds of Prey. So I feel like she could break into the FBI and find a copy that was before a magic marker took to it. But that's just me and being really nitpicky on Barbara Gordon stuff. I do really like Babs and Tim being concerned for his health, and just that one line, you have a concussion, you're supposed to be more sensible than Bruce, and Tim being the one to say that. Yeah. So I just love, not only having these 2 co-workers and working alongside him, but also being family members and friends, and really holding him accountable and keeping track of him, and also showing care and everything. So I think it's such a multi-dimensional relationship that we're seeing in this book between the main character and his cast.
A couple points.
Please.
One, that panel of Dick that we're looking at is really hunky. Even I'll admit that.
Thank you.
Also, and this is a detail.
Do you have any butt shots, by the way, in this? Oh, maybe when he's Nightwing.
I mean, it's not like no, it's not a scene of like him needing a shot in Oracle administering or whatever. But like, Also, this is a detail that hardcore Dick Grayson fans always point out. Like, if you're a big time, like my personality is like Dick Grayson fan, this is what they point out. He has just as many scars as Bruce Wayne on his body. And Bruno Redondo has consistently depicted that, which shows not only that's interesting, which makes sense because he's been fighting crime since he was a kid, but also like they're all about that level of his life. But really my second point is that, like, when Tim says you're supposed to be more sensible than Bruce, this is kind of the funny thing about these characters, because yeah, he is, but Dick is similar to Bruce in some ways as well. And sometimes people, when I say people, I mean like members of the Bat family, tend to forget that, you know, they were the dynamic duo for a while. Every now and then, Dick will act like Bruce in ways which are kind of unexpected and in kind of being determined to track somebody down at the cost of their own health. You know, Dick was raised in a household where that was like standard fare. So, you know,
yeah,
I thought that was a neat character beat.
Absolutely, yeah. And those are the two characters, I think, Babs and Tim, that would call him out on that. Like, hey.
Yeah, because they did not grow up in Wayne Manor.
Yeah. How about you don't do that? I love this scene. I think it's so cute. Like, they're finally bonding because it's taken a couple issues that basically the dog has just been a yapper, but just to have Haley / Bitewing sleeping with him, and it's like, oh, look at this. So I think that this is a cute little I think it changes Dick's dynamic a bit as a character just to have this dog with him. So, and then of course still wearing Barbara's camera, so I really love that because she's asking him like, where are you, what are you doing right now? And he's like, yeah, I'm resting. And then you know, you're still wearing your camera. I may have forgotten that. And then she says, well, yeah, because you have a head injury and all. So just it's like that scene from
it's like that scene from the last issue where it's like, so Barbara slipped over, huh? You know, I'm still on this channel, right?
Oh, I love that little Chibli, or what? Chibli?
Chibi, yeah, Chibi Barbara.
Yeah. And then you have a member of the Wakandan.
Dora Milaje.
Yes, thank you. Right there. And on your left, I love that. I mean, I thought immediately of Captain America and Falcon on your left, but I love how she's the one who can see it when he's not. So definitely helping out. And I think the last thing was just very shocking. And I said, the Fudge, she's his sister.
Yeah,
like,
this, we're really going to have to see where this goes, because I was like, okay. In Taylor's defense, you know, he's had 3 issues of steady buildup where we introduce the characters we love. You know, he's not been going crazy with like this. I think it's a problem with new writers when they come into a popular character. They introduce new things far too quickly. Mm-hmm. You know, we're changing things. You know, I think the smart thing was that Taylor kind of had us reintroduce the characters. We felt comfortable. And now here's his big storyline twist. And he's absolutely within his means to do that. I was talking about this with Josh. We've reestablished repeatedly that like Dick's family is a Bat family. So what place would a surprise long lost sister have in his supporting cast? So I trust Taylor to figure this out, but right now I'm very ambivalent about this, as well as the fact that like this character has connections to not only John Grayson but Tony Zuko and Boss Maroni.
Yeah.
So that is a lot at once. So I'm willing to see where it goes, but I was like, ooh, I don't know, but this guy's earned my trust, so I'm willing to go in here blindfolded.
Does that change the character greatly? The fact that just to find out that, oh, my father had an affair potentially with some other woman. I mean, do you think that that's something that will irrevocably change the character, or is it negligible?
We'll see. I mean, like, because, you know, he only knew his dad for like 12 years. I mean, it reminded me of a storyline in Gotham Knights where, and I don't know if you're going to get into this or not. I don't remember how often the Oracle showed up in it. It's in Gotham Knights, but there's a time where like Bane came to Batman saying, "Yo, your dad had an affair with my mother. We are half brothers." And it turned out that actually his father was King Snake. But it reminds me of that.
Okay. I think that's it for this. Yeah, I'm interested. I did not see this coming. And then she's just like, you know, normally in comics, something prevents the hero's mask from being taken off. So like how it's already off was really shocking as well. It's like,
yeah, I was like, should that happen? Now it's happened. I remember the first miniseries where Dick gets this black and blue costume. someone like he's captured and his mask is immediately taken off.
Oh dear.
So it's like, you think after all these years you would fix that, but whatever.
I guess not. Okay. And I think that's it. I think that's it for that. So we're both still digging it. And Tom is also really enjoying it as well. So I'll speak for him.
Oh, yeah. It's a fantastic run so far.
Absolutely. Okay. So the What Are You Wearing? Now, this is, you're not going to be able to see the whole thing, but it's superheroes have issues too. So they have examples of different things.
Anger management, painfully shy.
Yeah. So Barbara says, it's right at the bottom, it says Mrs. Right Now. So I take issue with this.
What man wrote that?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Number one, the fact that it says Mrs., I think because she's a feminist, I would probably say it would have to be MS period. And then also, I don't think I've ever seen her like that. It's not like she leaps into danger with, now, apart from like her first case, she always does her detectiving work. I'm speaking from Bronze Age of when, because she's in the gray. Well, she's in the blue cowl, so I assume it's probably the gray and blue. But I just don't see that that's her at all. I don't know what moniker, what's happening. I don't know what moniker or issue I would give her, but I would not give her Mrs. Right Now.
Bookworm?
Yeah, that could be Ms. Bookworm, Ms. Overachiever, maybe. Ms. Anal Retentive. I don't know. Something like that.
Miss, I told you so.
Yeah, not this. I'm like, you don't know her at all. And then Penguin is morbidly obese. I didn't think he was that big.
kind of body shaming.
Yeah, but I do. My favorite, I think, is Dark Side. It says "Need a hug." That one's my favorite.
Yeah, that's funny.
Like that would fix everything. Okay, our final segment is literature recommendations. Since you're the guest, you can go first. What have you been reading?
I was reading it today for the purposes of my essay.
Oh, is it something called The Power?
It's on the list.
Yours?
Did I bring that book up? Yeah, here it is. I don't know if I was telling this to Harold the other day.
Oh,
can you read that, or is it backwards?
Yeah, Sexual Ideology in the Works of Alan Moore.
Yes, this was one of the two essays on the Killing Joke that I read, and because there is or there can be very queer readings into Batman and Joker's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of reading that to see if there's anything I can kind of like gleam upon. And the essay here actually kind of it compares a shared, it says there's a shared conversation between them in The Killing Joke and the movie The Dark Knight. It was good, but it wasn't so much into the heteronormative, homosexual connection between the two of them.
Is that a recent thing, or has there always been sort of homoerotic attraction between the two that writers subtly or non-subtly? I mean, Snyder did it non-subtly.
Well, what it is not so much attraction, but it's kind of like what they represent, and that representation compares and contrasts. I think the most out there, like psychological recognition of it was probably started in Dark Knight Returns. Because Frank Miller said that like the way he depicted Joker was pretty much, he said that the quote was he was a homophobic nightmare. Like the idea was that he was so obsessed with Batman that it came out into straight up like gay love. And like Batman, who's typically seen as this like, DC Comics like rigid masculine figure, is like, oh no, like thematically.
Yeah.
And since then, writers kind of gone back and forth around it. I mentioned this when you and I did the Killing Joke episode. I reread this essay where popular theory is like, oh, Batman kills Joker at the end of the Killing Joke. It's like, well, actually, this essay posits that he could kiss him, because Batman reaching out and trying to rehabilitate the Joker throughout the entire thing is representative of the two characters penetrating gender norms. Especially in the realm of comic book regularity. Like, you learn how to become a person by reading comic books. These are how people act, even if they're in costumes and such. And especially with them, like Joker, he has festival colors and stuff. He weaponizes flowers. He weaponizes things that people think are safe and fun. Whereas Batman, into the whole like dressing in dark leather kind of thing. Well, as Bruce Wayne's much more of an act, much more of a gender performance. There's a lot of you can read into a lot of things through that way. In the book that I am reviewing for Dustin, Contested Sexuality, goes a lot into how there's a lot of gender performance with Batman. How like James Bond on his own time, sleeps with women and buys expensive cars and watches and stuff. But Bruce Wayne does that so people thinks that he cares about that. he puts on this performance basically puts on a James Bond performance while he goes into his closet and then changes his clothes. And so I've been reading a lot of this just because it's interesting, and also there's a lot to say still about Batman and sexuality. So,
well, if DC won't allow pelvic affiliation between Catwoman and Batman, I doubt that they're going to allow a smooch between Joker and Batman on screen.
I saw a clip from the new Long Hollywood, the Long Hollywood,
Long Hollywood, yes,
the Long Halloween movie, where I think that like the Joker is like running around causing havoc towards Carmine Falcone. I think at one point he like smooches him in the mouth, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're here now."
Interesting. The thing that turns me off immediately from that is the
animation.
Yes, because I guess I would have expected it to look like Tim Sale's artwork.
I really don't like that they have just not embraced. And I understand animation is hard, but like I remember when they were advertising the Killing Joke movie, and like it didn't look at all like Brian Bolland. I know they can't exactly do that, but it's kind of looked around the middle. I was like, okay, this is a cop out. And with Tim Sale, yeah, he's another extreme artist, but it's not distinctive. And I've seen clips of the animation. I've not seen the movie yet, but it's very stilted. Like characters will be completely straight, and then like their limbs will kind of move back and forth, like it's like a motion comic. And I was like, okay, this is just annoying. And so much of the comic reading experience is atmosphere. If you recreate the atmosphere, then that's where it is. Like I honestly think that the best comic book adaptation that they've done is The Dark Knight Returns, specifically the 3rd chapter where he is fighting the Joker, because that feels like the comic book. But a lot of times they have a hard time replicating how it looks because they need to streamline it for animation. And I think they're kind of like just ending up being an inferior product, except for some cases like Under the Red Hood or A New Frontier. I thought it was pretty special.
I mean,
yeah,
I would say that really stands out as a very specific art style, and they were able to capture it. So
absolutely.
I don't know. I guess it's like the art house. Is that what it's called? Or art? I don't know. House style. That's kind of what they're just like
in-house style.
Yeah.
Because I've not watched their Justice Society one, the Superman one, but they look exactly the same. Like they're very thick lines, limited thing.
Any other books that you're reading?
I'll let you know when I start The Power, because I'm almost done with Gravity Falls.
Okay, yeah. And then once you finish The Power, I'll watch Jimmy Neutron. What's it called?
Not even I watched Jimmy Neutron.
Steven Universe.
Yeah, we'll see.
I made you a promise, but it's taking I follow through on my promises. Okay, so of course I've read a bunch. I finally read the new Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. So I learned a great deal with that. And now I'm listening to season 3. Well, I'm about to finish season 3 of Serial. And that takes place looking at some court cases and courthouses and everything. And so I'm seeing a lot of that. And also Virginia is about to legalize marijuana. And so I was thinking to myself, what happens when you legalize marijuana and you have a bunch of people in jail who have had marijuana on them? Do they get freed? Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mean, here's hoping for some change there.
I thought you already read the new Jim Crow for whatever reason.
I did not. So I've been going through my racial activism books. And so that one, I didn't even know about it until who mentioned it?
Harry's read it.
Yeah, I can't remember. It may have been Stamped from the Beginning. I heard about it in another book. And so I was like, oh, I should read this.
Was it We're 8 Years of Power?
It could have been. It could have been that one. Sometimes now there's like overlap now with all of them. So I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this information before, which is good to refresh. So I read 3, I just as like, oh, I'm taking a break, 3 suspense mystery romance novels in a series that I like. It's been a while since I've read from them. They're all by the same author, Julie Garwood. So Sweet Talk, Hot Shot, and Fast Track. So, hey, man, I'm not ashamed to read this. I then read The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, which will be the July episode of Required Reading with Tom and Stella. Daughter of a Queen by Sarah Bird, which I enjoyed more than I thought I would because I'm sort of burned out on Civil War stuff, but this was actually good and follows a real life woman. And then I just finished today, The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, which was I also read.
Oh man, that's been on our shelves for a while.
Yeah, I had read Everything, and then I saw this. One of my friends is moving to Philadelphia, and she had some books she was giving him. I was like, "Oh, I've heard of this," and she said it was good, so I took a recommendation. I enjoyed it. So, and there's some romance, and I guess it's YA technically, but I enjoy YA. So,
Are you reading a lot of, or have you read recently like queer romance?
I haven't read too many. So there's one that popped up randomly on my Amazon called Some Girls Do, which I think is about, it takes place in high school. And I think there's a lesbian and then a closeted bisexual. And I recommended it to my library. I'm like, hey, you might want some more representation. And they're like, we have taken your recommendation and we'll let you know when it's in there. So that'll probably be my next one. But other than, I feel like graphic novels, I've read more queer representation than I have. I mean, I guess I read The Price of Salt, aka Carol, and Go Tell the Bees, or Tell It to the Bees, and Fun Home, I guess, doesn't technically count because that's a graphic novel. But yeah, not as many. Do you have recommendations since it is?
It is Pride. Have you heard of Sunstone? It's a graphic novel.
I haven't.
It is, gosh, I can't pronounce the artist's name. Stefan Sejic, I think he is. He's worked on Aquaman. He's worked on comic books before. He did that Harleen graphic novel.
Okay.
The Black Label Harleen book. It is a book about two women who kind of fall in love. They find each other. Well, they fall in love. They find each other online through a BDSM group chat.
Oh my God.
So they meet and start having these BDSM sessions, and through it they fall in love. And you know what? It's pretty good.
Okay. Oh,
like
man.
it is not, I mean, it's technically erotica, but it's not pornography. It's very much like the Batgirl book, the Cassandra Batgirl book, in that character kind of drives the action more than anything else. So if you were to read it, I don't know how bashful you would be about it. Of course, there's of course there is. It's not exploitative, and it's written and illustrated by a husband and wife team.
Okay.
Writing about two women.
I mean, maybe I'll consider it. I've going through and searching for like romances whenever I see, that BDSM is one of the subject matters. I'm like, nah, I gotta move on. I'm so sorry. So that's just it's not my niche. I mean, how heavy is it? We're heavy beatings.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
It's not violent. There's just a lot of like tying up and blindfolding.
Okay.
And I think some like light spanking, but it really isn't like it really isn't like but it really isn't like pain for play kind of thing. It's just kind of like the sensation of like being blindfolded or tied up, and that's really it. And they kind of talk about, oh wow, that was such a thrill, but it's not like them going into work the next day looking like they just came from a fight or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would not recommend it to you if I didn't think you would like it.
Oh,
but I don't know if you will or not.
If you think if there are no heavy beatings involved, then perhaps I'll. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't like to see other people hitting. I don't know. That's just my preference. I understand that's other people's preference. There was something I was going to say, and now I've forgotten.
Your brain's just been drained dry.
Yeah, I think it had to do with like a queer representation or recommendation, but I haven't read it yet, but I did get Poison Ivy. Is it called Thorns?
Oh, is that YA graphic novel?
Yeah. So I was looking forward to that. It's like I think they specified like it's an out of continuity. I'm like, okay. But,
have you read I'm sorry, but have you read the DC Pride issue?
No, I have that, but I have yet to.
Okay.
Do you recommend it? Was it good?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going to read it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I like the Festival of Heroes. Well, I was more invested in that one, but this one's fine. I would honestly like the queer heroes in DC. I have a less attachment to, so my engagement was less. But I didn't read anything that was like bad, right? Like, I didn't read anything that was like, oh, how this get here? It seemed. I think it was well reviewed as well.
I feel like part of the reason why. I mean, I'm just adding feelings to you that you may not have, but I could totally see you not being connected to them because I feel like they've not been dealt with well. I think Marvel has a good handle on its queer characters, but DC besides, I feel like Kate is the most fleshed out character. I was looking through those and I almost rolled I probably did roll my eyes at Alan Scott. And I thought, oh yeah, let me think back to when they brought him out and then killed his lover in the first issue. So they just don't have a handle on it. So I'm glad they're doing this. Maybe that'll be a good incentive to do that. And I feel like they've got queer characters that are really popular, but they don't focus on their queerness. Like Wonder Woman, you could probably do something. Catwoman, like I'm saying. But
every woman in Gotham City except for Barbara Gordon.
That might be true.
I think I counted at one point. I'm like, damn.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess we could have done something more. I'm sorry we didn't do something more pride related. We could have.
Listen to my podcast.
There you go. Yes. Yeah. So before you go, thank you, by the way, for coming on and defending Cassandra and answering my demanding questions. Please tell us where we can find and support you. I know Quinoa is alive and well.
Yes, we sow and raise the grain of quinoa on quinoanswers.com. Myself and Harrison, the Garrison Shoot, we discuss whatever. I mean, we had this great episode with some guests on concerning asexual representation. Not only do we talk about the fact of it, but we pondered who in fiction is asexual. That's not been said yet, and that was fun. But that episode as a whole, it was one of the best we've done all year. And as of this recording, the next one we're going to do is on critical race theory to satisfy my anger. And yeah, QWinchers.com. I'm also reviewing Nightwing for the BatmanUniverse.net. You can see me on Twitter, DonoDMG1, and my articles are still posted on DC Infinite if you're interested in reading those. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. Maybe we, as in you on Quinoa, because you do random commentaries anyway, should do a commentary on Alien 4. And it would be interesting because you would have well, you've seen Alien and Aliens, but to see 4 would be another beast altogether. And then of course Harold would be there defending it and I would be there.
Which one? What's is it just called Alien 4?
I think it's called Alien Resurrection. I can't remember. It also has that shoplifter. I can't remember her name now.
Oh, Winona Ryder. Was it that?
Yes, Winona Ryder.
The shoplifter.
I'm so sorry, Winona. I know that you've paid your penance for that, but you always.
It also has that shoplifter. You can see her on a wanted sign right there.
It's like Cassandra, that little assassin. Yes. So
she's known as Cass on the streets.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, I look forward to that. Do you talk about asexuality specifically?
We hit it all.
And then you go off and you talk about representation and what characters could be?
Yeah, no, and it's all down to our guests, Alex Jaffe and Professor Chris Creary. Like they just go into it. They talk about, their personal experiences, how they see it, the different delineations, how it's utilized, what alleged straights like you and I should be doing as allies. But it's a really fun conversation. It's not very academic or stoic. And, we get into various characters and it's just, I don't know. It was like a really spirited conversation that I think was very universal. While also extremely educational. Yeah, no, it was a fun time. I might listen to it again just because it was done so well. And I know Harry and I tend to go on a lot. I don't really have a lot of regrets about that, but sometimes short episodes are much more useful. And this was about an hour and change, so I think that it's a nice, digestible, solid, educational, entertaining recording that we did.
I can't wait. I'd love to hear what their thoughts are on a YA book I read 2 years ago called "Let's Talk About Love," and it has an asexual woman or I guess young lady as its lead, and I had some trouble with it. I was like, I don't know about this, but I'd like to hear what they have to say. But I think that's great because I think a lot of people don't really think about asexual people, and because you kind of cut off LGBT and those are the letters that mostly, and then what is it ? And I think everyone has this idea, but really, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like asexuality, even though sexuality overall has a spectrum, I feel like asexuality also has its own spectrum of like, what does that mean for me? And how does this, how do I?
Oh yeah. I won't say much beyond that because I don't want people to listen to the episode, but we get all into it. It's not just one imaginable thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirltheoracle@gmail.com. Where can they reach you if they have problems with what your girl did to Barbara?
KeenanWest@gmail.com and then say, "Dear Harry."
We hate Cassandra's paralyzation of Barbara. I hope they do. You can also find the show on Google Play and Stitcher. I should go on 4chan, what's it called, and ask for trolls. Trolls, could you?
No, because they'll storm my capital.
I know, I won't do it. You can find the show on Google Play and Stitcher, like the show on Facebook, or follow it on Twitter @BatgirlTheOracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version, as you've been seeing. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And until next time, which will be Bruce Jerk Fugitive. The last time we see Donovan on this show. Well, what do we say?
Fly on, Babs. And fight on, cast lovers.
Okay, we don't say that. We say fly on, Babs lovers.
Flee on, Bruce Wayne murderer.
Oh, Bruce Jerk.
Just plain Barbara Gordon, masquerading for a lark as she rides into the night on her special Batgirl cycle. Who knows? Is the dynamic duo destined to become the triumphant trio? Only time will tell us more about this dazzling daredoll.
I love a happy ending, don't you?